All right, we are live. Welcome, Jake, Jamie. We are here. Jamie is officially a Chicagoan. Jamie, I'm not even going to do anything else. I need to start this show off with the greatness that is the city of Chicago has welcomed my guy, Jamie, to the city. Your first impressions, you're now a Chicagoan, man. I'm hyped for you. How's it feel?
I'm hyped as well. I'm excited to be out here. It's been a beautiful day, mid-50s, clear skies, getting the sunset right now. I'm looking out over Lake Michigan from my apartment, watching the sunset off in the distance. Can't complain. I'm really excited. I am literally walking distance. I am 15 minutes walk, according to Google Maps, from me to the entrance of Soldier Field.
You love it.
Doesn't mean a lot this year, I know, but once things get back to the new normal at some point, I'll be spending plenty of time over there. Your boy Mitch can spend some time on my couch as we watch Nick Foles this weekend.
Wow!
If he needs a place to stay, he can hang with me. Look, I'm a Mitch guy. Look, I'm a Mitch over Foles guy as well. We've talked about that on our show ad nauseum. That's not going to be a surprise. But if I could take a shot to start, that's where I'm going to go.
Listen, Jamie might move to a new city, but that's not going to keep him from mocking me. So that's not there. He might be in a new city. He might be in my city. Nonetheless, but he's still going to continue to mock me. So I wouldn't have it any other way. Happy to be here, presented by our new friends over at Mighty Swell. Okay, everybody's been trying to check these out. Blackberry is my flavor of choice. There's a ton of good flavors. Really excited about this because basically, effectively, this is going to become our pregame for the podcast, right? We're going to just chill out, relax, hang out with the people, get some questions, have the ability for our audience to interact. We've got Cool Bro 297 over here who just wanted to say hi. Hello. It's a Friday. We're relaxed. We're chilling out. We got plenty to talk about and good stuff to talk about if you're a Buccaneers fan. So I'm going to start right there, right? Before we get into, we'll talk a little bit about Le'Veon Bell because Jamie didn't have an opportunity to weigh in on that. But Jake, I want you to talk about and fantasy-wise, right? Huge implications in that Green Bay-Tampa Bay game. Massive, tons and tons of fantasy value on that team. But how excited are you to watch Chris Godwin, Scotty Miller, and Mike Evans? Because they all came off the injury report today. So happy to see that.
I don't think any of them are 100%, but they're close enough that they're off the injury report. I think they all practice in full. So Tom Brady got reps with all those guys out there for the first time in a while. I mean, they played the first 3 quarters in Denver with all those guys, but O.J. Howard's now gone, so they've mixed things up. Now those guys are back. I'm excited. It's a great matchup for them. The Packers defense gives up a lot. I think it's a good day for both running backs, all 3 of these receivers, especially Chris Godwin extending drives. Mike Evans and Scotty Miller are more down the field guys, big play guys. They need Chris Godwin bad for that third down guy in the slot to keep these drives going. Tom Brady's missed that. Excited for him to be back. Nervous at the same time that something else is going to go wrong, but I would love to get a nice stretch here, 3 or 4 weeks with all these guys together. As this offense continues to grow, they got to have these guys in the field together to really get to where they need to be. And 3 or 4 weeks from now we're talking about mid-November, and it's time to start getting ready to make a run. So they got to get, this is vital, these next 3 or 4 games. Good matchups. They got the Packers, they got the Raiders, they got the Giants. They can get things going a little bit here. The defense is going to be solid either way. Tough matchup for them too, though. I mean, Devontae Adams back. Aaron Jones, I don't love in the running game in this, but in the passing game, he's still their second best option. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be a battle. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's a good matchup, but it's a great test for the Bucs to bounce back. If they can get this one, they're right back in the middle of it.
Jamie, are you going to be riding the Robert Tonyan train going into this matchup? Are you excited about him? Because good Lord, there is a whole lot of hype going on for him.
Well, look, after catching all of the touchdowns the last time we saw him, I'm not surprised. I'm in like with him. I mean, he's going to be in the bottom part of my top 10 tight ends because tight end is as bad as ever. Even though we thought this year was going to be different, it turned out to be it's as bad as ever. So he'll be in the conversation there. So depending on what your situation is, if you're streaming guys, you might want to play him. You're not playing him over any of the top options there. You're not playing him over any of the guys the must starts every week, the Andrews, the Kittles, the Kelseys, the Wallers. Those guys you're still playing, but he's fine. Like, I think he's a fine option. It's kind of how I feel about that. Outside you get the top 5 tight ends, I think Jonnu Smith deserves to be in that conversation now at tight end 5. then other than that, it's just like you're picking and choosing on a weekly basis. And that includes a guy you were drafting in the top 3 in Zach Ertz. Like that is now a matchup, depends on play. And once Dallas Goedert comes back, you might not even be that. But as far as timing goes, I like him. You're playing him off of his best game of his career, most likely. So just understand that and be understanding of what his actual upside is. But I mean, I haven't ranked in my top 10 because at this point, who isn't? I mean, look at it. It's
totally
bad,
honest. Right? Totally honest. Yeah. At this point, who isn't in the top 10? That's my favorite quote of the day for sure.
Is there much of a difference between like 9 and 7? Like right now, my tight end 16 and 17 this week are Jimmy Graham and Trey Burton with no Mo Ali Cox in the game for Indianapolis. So like, is there a humongous difference between those guys and guys up at 9 and 10? Not really. There's a difference. That's why I rank them that way. But like much of a difference?
What a weird place to be for me. As I know that Jamie is so close, you could probably throw a stone to Soldier Field, that I have to talk positively about Jimmy Graham. I don't even know what to do with that. The Bears put out this Instagram post like we'd like to reintroduce himself. I'm like, I don't even know what to do with this. I was so upset with this signing. I hope he continues to catch touchdown passes, but man, catch balls that come right to your chest. Like that's what I'm asking. Like you can catch the ball. He'll
reintroduce himself as soon as they get to the 19-yard line.
Yeah,
that's between the 20s. He's completely irrelevant to the game.
Yes.
He can't block a soul. He doesn't catch anything until they get in the red zone, and then all of a sudden he's a superstar again. But the rest of the game, completely irrelevant.
150% accurate. All right, Jamie, you did not get to join us yesterday because you were on the road on your way to Chicago as the Le'Veon Bell news broke. And listen, I think this podcast, specifically TDN Fantasy podcast, was probably the most realistic is the word I want to use about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and what his value could look like this year, right? We were excited, but like tempered the expectations, right? Like we're drafting him 2, which is like some of what people were talking about. What are you going to do with your rankings now moving forward that Le'Veon Bell is now going to inevitably be a thing in Kansas City?
So this is interesting to me because I'm moving Edwards-Helaire down a little bit because you have to, but he's not falling past top end of RB2 category. I mean, look, running backs right now do it yourself. If you haven't had a chance yet, do it your own personal running back rankings next week and watch how quickly it falls off a freaking cliff. So you have to, when sometimes I think people forget when they just throw out, oh, he's an RB2 now. Oh no, he's now not a top. Go actually look at the running backs you're going to rank on a weekly basis and then come back to me because it gets rough really quick. He's still at RB2 for me. And by the way, he was slipping to that category as he was slipping down that top 10, top 12 anyway, given the fact that he wasn't being used quite the same way we saw him on opening night. I don't have any worries about him long term. To me, this Le'Veon Bell signing is more about replacing and upgrading Daryl Williams than it is about replacing or taking touches away from Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They need somebody on the field in third down, pass blocking, pass catching, 2-minute drill, hurry up offense situations. And if you've been watching the Chiefs closely, you know you're seeing 31 on the field in those situations. As, by the way, we told you all offseason you would. They listened to the show. We told you this all offseason. You've been seeing Daryl Williams out there. And he does a lot of fundamental things well, but the talent level compared to the types of players they need in that offense at that point doesn't match up. He tries hard. He does a lot of small things well, but he doesn't have the talent level of Le'Veon Bell. So inserting Le'Veon Bell into the offense in those situations will obviously help that team as a whole. It puts Le'Veon Bell in low-end RB2 territory, so a little below where he would have been coming into the season where I had him ranked. I had him ranked as an upper-end RB2, but he's going to get work. He's going to be on the field in 2-minute drills, and I think especially as you watch this team maybe not play up to the caliber they were playing to last year, they're going to need to get production for 4 quarters. This is not going to be, okay, we're going to get production for 3 quarters and we're going to take our feet off the gas anymore because we're up 30. This is not a team that's playing like that right now. So both of these backs are going to be valuable. Both of these backs can start on a weekly basis for you because odds are they're both going to be ranked in my top 25 going forward.
It's I think Jake and I both rostered Le'Veon Bell, right? At least you did to start the season, Jake. From the Le'Veon side, are you happy about this happening? Because I know for me, now that I've seen what the Jets were going to look like, the second that this news, not that he was signing with Kansas City, but the second that he's released, I went, okay, good. because I just knew that this Jets team is so bad. They're never going to be winning a football game. They're never going to be able to establish the run, and their offensive line is just bad. So I was happy about it. Were you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to take 8 to 12 touches at Kansas City over 18 to 22 in New York, and I think I'm going to get better production there. I think the chance of a touchdown are much higher. I think the chance of a big 25, 30-yard play are much higher. He's not going to have to do as much to get those yards and that production. So, yeah, I like it. And if he is going to be that third down, 2-minute guy, they run that a lot. They run that in the middle of the game. They don't have to necessarily be in 2 minutes to be in the shotgun and him to be in there. And I said yesterday, I can't wait to see them both on the field together. There's all these little jet motion dump passes. You can now do those with bigger guys. They can still make that cut. It's going to be interesting to see how they're used.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
I've been here. Don't be surprised if they using him as a receiver is one thing, but using him literally as a receiver at times, because Sammy Watkins is hurt. You've got Tyreek Hill, you have a speedster, you have Mecole Hardman, a speedster, it's not a polished receiver. Now you're dealing with DeMarcus Robinson and Byron Pringle, and you're dealing with a lot of, for lack of a better phrase, players you can't rely on in certain situations. They don't have a short intermediate route. They don't have that player. And if Le'Veon Bell, especially if both of those guys are on the field at the same time, those are two strong route runners from the running back position. If they're able to use them both, one of them in the backfield, one of them leaking out, one of them maybe in the slot, they are missing that option right now in their offense, particularly with Watkins out. That could be a role Le'Veon Bell can fill while Clyde Edwards-Helaire is still on the field, to Jake's point.
Yeah, I think we talked about this in every capacity yesterday initially, Jake and I, when the news came out. And just, overall, you're happy if you're a Kansas City Chiefs fan because you added a playmaker to this offense. And I think you can trust what you see with Andy Reid. I think the pedigree's there. Or if you don't think the pedigree's there, then you've lost your mind and haven't been watching football to know that you're going to get the best damn version of Le'Veon that they possibly could. Because Adam Gase and that team, whether weren't using them, lack of playmakers, lack of offensive line, a combination of both, not having trust in the head coach. I think there were a lot of factors here to get a really unmotivated Le'Veon Bell, right? Which is, you got a lot of unmotivated players in New York in general right now. It's not a good place to be. All right, guys, you guys each picked a couple of games that we're going to talk about here. Some with some betting implications that we're really into, and some with some really big fantasy implications, right? So the first game we're going to talk about here, the Texans and the Titans playing each other. The Titans are 3.5-point favorites in this one, right? And if you watched our Against the Spread show, you watched both Jake and I go at length about how we thought this was disrespectful borderline to the Tennessee Titans. And this is one of those ones we both liked. Jamie, you're here. You're now part of the show. So tell us, you agreeing with us, or you like the Texans in this one?
No, I agree with you completely. This was actually the first, and I almost locked it in. I ended up putting it inside my third lock of the week, which you can see at thedraftnetwork.com. It's a 3-team teaser that involves this game, but this line should be 6. I was shocked this was not opened up at Tennessee -6. That one just blew me away. It was up at one point. I was able to grab it at 2.5. And I was thrilled to get that, to not even have to worry about a full field goal in this. I think this is an overreaction to them having one less day off than a Monday night game. I don't think if they played on Monday night and turned around and played on Sunday, you would see a line like this, but I guess there's some extra days uncertainty. As I wrote in the article, as we were reminded approximately 380 times during that game, they're well rested. So I'm not as worried about them playing on one or two fewer days than normal, depending on how you look at the schedule. So I think they're just an overall better team than Houston. I think the Texans are complete frauds. We've talked about that all year. They looked terrible in the first half of that game. I know Deshaun Watson had a good second half. They ended up putting up 30 points. They win that game. But I saw that first half of that game, and it was a disaster against Jacksonville for Deshaun Watson and company. So Tennessee's defense is not great. That's the best kept secret. They're not anything special on defense, particularly when they're injured like they are in the secondary with Adoree Jackson and some others. But they're better than Jacksonville. And offensively, they're clicking on all cylinders without Derrick Henry clicking on all cylinders. And I think that's the biggest thing I've been encouraged about. So I will respond to Jake's point on the show. I did not think he could be this efficient again. And so far, he's being as good again. So kudos to Jake, who's on that train. the whole time. I thought he'd be good. I just thought he wouldn't just be quite this good. He's put up the same lines. He's throwing the ball 27 times. He's completing 80% of them. He's throwing 3 touchdowns for 200 yards. This is the exact same thing you saw from week 7 on last season. It has continued to this year. And I believe he's the QB3 or QB4 in fantasy since he took over as a starting quarterback. It's remarkable what they're doing there right now. A.J. Brown's healthy. Now let's see A.J. Brown and Corey Davis on the field healthy maybe that happens this week. I'm not sure about Davis's status at this point, but with all those pieces rolling right now, wait till Derrick Henry starts to get going about week 10. That's when he starts to really liven up the last couple years. When that running game gets going the way it needs to, when they start getting a little bit healthier in that secondary, they're a team to be reckoned with, particularly against a team like Houston, who I know it's a divisional game, but they're just not that good.
No, Houston is not a good football team. Like I don't get this one at all. I think that's what we talked about here. Jake, do you have anything to add? I know that obviously we talked about this one a lot, but I think the reality is, one, I love that Jamie responded to the Ryan Tannehill conversation because it's, to be fair, it was a fair, like he had almost this unrealistic version of himself that we'd never seen consistently, that now we are seeing consistently. Even the rushing touchdown where he almost gave me a heart attack when he came down on his knee, and I'm going, dude, don't do that again, right? Like all the injuries that have happened this year, not something you need your quarterback doing while he's celebrating scoring a touchdown, but he's sneaky athletic. He has the ability to move around enough, and he's got a pretty good set of weapons with a really damn good running back, Jake. So anything else to add? Otherwise, we're locking in Titans -3.5.
Yeah, a couple things. Yeah, that Martin Gramatica almost ACL blow touchdown celebration dropped everything in me for a second there. I would add, I think part of this is they had a huge injury report after the game Monday night. But they're playing at home. They don't have to get on a plane. And I'm not worried about that later in the week. And the other thing I want to add is Adam Humphreys coming back. I think it just gives Tannehill that much more of an outlet. Same thing with Chris Godwin. Continue these drives. 3rd down, 3rd and 4. He's phenomenal at that stuff. Coming back off the COVID list, he should be good to go. I mean, Tannehill's got a long way to go to finish this run this year, but he started this exactly where he left off last year. And it's been fun to watch, man. The dude can absolutely play in this system that Arthur Smith's running.
Yeah, it's Arthur Smith doing a hell of a job, getting himself talked about in a lot of conversations about what he's been able to do with Ryan Tannehill, that quarterback whisperer Adam Gase wasn't able to do in Miami over the period of time that he had him. So I think it's interesting how we get these narratives and conversations around certain guys that really, quite frankly, don't really deserve it all that much. And Arthur Smith staying quiet down in Tennessee, been doing a damn good job with Ryan Tannehill. Go ahead, James. I know you got something to say.
To your point about that, because I think this ties in a little bit to the Le'Veon Bell conversation. I'm not ready to say a player is washed before I see them get significant reps away from Adam Gase. I mean, you look at the names, you look at the Devontae Parkers, the Ryan Tannehills, the Kenyon Drakes, even to a certain extent, the Robbie Andersons this year. Yeah. I mean, the list of players that are having a lot of success when the minute Adam Gase either leaves or they leave Adam Gase is astounding on the offensive side of the ball for a coach that was always propped up to be this offensive genius that he never was, never is, or is going to be. So I want to see Le'Veon Bell. Again, he's not going to get the same workload. He's going to get half the workload he would have gotten in New York. But I want to see him in a better offense away from Gase before we're already willing to declare that he's washed at 28.
God bless you, Peyton Manning. You got Adam Gase a job, and I think that's where this ends. I don't think there's going to be much more Adam Gase in the NFL. Yeah, multiple jobs in the NFL. I think we can safely say Peyton, great quarterback, bad evaluator of other guys going to play in the NFL. We don't need him coaching in the NFL any longer. Moving on, Bears, Panthers. This line's kind of moved all over the place. It's currently Panthers -1. Jake, I know you liked this one for the Bears, especially when they were getting a little bit more, right? They're still an underdog in this one. Do you like this matchup for the Bears?
I've had them winning outright all along. I got them 24-20. I loved it as an underdog. When I first looked at it, it was 3. And I went, damn, that jumps off the page. That doesn't seem right. I like what the Panthers have done. They're getting better. They're growing. Teddy's been done really well. Robbie Anderson's fitting in that middle and continually building on what he's got going on. DJ Moore's been solid. Mike Davis has been awesome. That defense has 9 new starters. It's playing hard, but this is not a good matchup for them. This offense is playing better playing the Bears defense, who only flies under the radar because they've done this for 3 straight years. Number 1 third down, number 1 in the red zone. That is a bad combination for this offense. And I think that defense is okay enough that Nick Foles can take advantage of it. If they just run the damn ball and play action a little bit, not being shotgun the whole time, I think the Bears offense succeeds here. Yes, it's on the road, but that doesn't really matter. I think the Bears, I don't know that they're better coached, but they're more experienced with their group in the building. I think they're flying high after their win last week. They're rested. I like the Bears. I like them getting 1. I loved them getting 3, but I like them as a pick 'em too.
Jamie, quickly on this one, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm the opposite way on here. I like the Panthers in this game, not by 3. I thought that line was a little crazy. It's settled into Panthers -1 now at BetOnline, and that's where it should have been all along. I'm not quite sure why they opened up as such heavy favorites in that, or as normal favorites there. This is actually one of the low-key best matchups of the weekend, Carolina's offense versus Chicago's defense. That's going to be really exciting to watch if you kind of like break it down like the game within the game. My concern here is more of the Bears have the talent to win this game. Will they call the plays on offense they need to win this game?
That's a good question.
If David Montgomery doesn't have 23 or more carries in this football game, it is a failure. Barring injury, it is an absolute failure of play calling.
Totally
you can gash the Panthers in the running game. Most teams have done it this year. This needs to be the David Montgomery show. My fear is that every time we say this needs to be the David Montgomery show, we watch a game and it's never the David Montgomery show.
Yeah.
So to me, the key for the Bears to win this game, and it's going to sound, if you've been a Bears fan for your entire life as you have, Paige, it's going to sound very familiar for you, but run the ball effectively and play good defense. They got the defense part on lock. That defense is playing exceptionally well. The issue is, are they going to be able to run the ball effectively, or are they going to try to do what they did against Tampa, or what they try to do against some of these other teams where they need Nick Foles to operate more? And I still think Carolina's offense is going to get enough points in this game that the Bears are going to have to do something in this game offensively. And that something should be running for 150 yards. But will they commit to running the ball early and often enough and stick with it? Or are they going to try to make Nick Foles throw the ball 35 times? I still fear they're going to do that, which I think leaves this open to be, a 1 or 2 point game in Carolina's favor.
Mighty Swell, my dear friends, Chelsea and Christian over there, can you guys make sure that I get shipped about 10 more packages of this for my football season watching? Because good Lord, this is so accurate. It's such logical assumptions and knowledge about this football team going, okay, you can do this, the matchup makes sense. All that can be correct and they could still go the other way. I do think they are going to finally do it. I do think it's like at a certain point, you have to stop outsmarting yourself. And if you watch the game against Tampa, there were multiple moments where Nick Foles was talking very passionately to Matt Nagy. Okay, so I can assure you, I have never seen Mitch Trubisky push back on Matt Nagy because he's young and he doesn't have the acumen. He hasn't earned the respect in the NFL. Nick Foles has. He's won a Super Bowl. So he can go to Matt Nagy and say, hey, I'm seeing this. I want to do this. We'll see if that happens long term, but I did see that on the sideline in that game, and then there was a change because things were not going well for a while, and then all of a sudden they go on a drive at the end of the first half. He goes 7 for 7, and things started looking different for them ever after that. I'll use the word passionate. Others could use different words, but it was a very passionate conversation that was happening between Nick Foles and Matt Nagy. All right, next game, guys, that you guys wanted to chat about here, Lions and Jacksonville, right? So the Lions are a 4-point favorite against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Listen, the Minshew mania has been a little bit of a roller coaster, right? We've seen the good, we've seen the bad. He's been collectively pretty good, even especially fantasy-wise. I know a lot of people are utilizing him in their leagues to start. The Lions defense is obviously nothing to be afraid of, but the Lions are 4-point favorites here. Jamie, are you picking the Lions to cover the spread here against Minshew mania, the mustache?
I am. I like what this offense looks like when Kenny Golladay is healthy. They've got all their weapons. Adrian Peterson, keep an eye on. He might be touch or go for this week, but then if he is out of this game, I really do think this finally, maybe, hopefully, could be the DeAndre Swift breakout. If that's the case, if he's going to be the lead guy there. But this offense looks so different when Kenny Galladay's in there. Marvin Jones is a good player, but he's a good complementary player. He needs to be the number 2 there. Danny Amendola, when healthy, has been very effective there in the slot. It's been quiet because you can't be a good slot receiver outside of New England and anybody pay attention to you. But he's been a solid player for them. This defense isn't great, but neither is Jacksonville's. I think James Robinson has a big game here. We'll see about the status of DJ Chark. It's going to be up in the air. But to me, I look at this and I still think when they're clicking with Stafford and Golladay, it's easy to forget about these teams that go on a bye week. It's so easy, especially this year, just to completely forget about what they're doing. The Lions aren't a great team, but neither's Jacksonville. And I'm going to take my chance on the quarterback wide receiver combination that they have there in Detroit, even on the road in this matchup.
Jake?
Yeah, I got the Lions 30-23. I looked at this one again and went, that doesn't seem right to me. Like, Golladay was struggling with injuries. He's got another week coming off the bye now. Like, when you're talking about Golladay, Marvin Jones, Amendola, Swift in the backfield, or they're running it with Adrian Peterson, Matt Stafford is better than Deshaun Watson. They have better weapons than Houston had last week playing this Jacksonville team. I agree with Jamie. I think James Robinson has a big week. I think Chenault has kind of ascended into the number 2, maybe number 1 if Chark doesn't play. Minshew 3 out of 4 games, 300 yards. He's not turning it over. So it's not been that much of a roller coaster as much as it was last year, but he has to play at that level for them to have a chance, and they just don't score a ton of points. So I looked at this one and went, I don't see a way that they can keep pace with Detroit. I watched a lot of that Detroit-Arizona game a couple weeks ago. Akuda was a beast in that game.
Yeah.
He's a really good young player. So even if Chark does play, I like him to really shut one of those guys down on one of the sides of the field. To me, I'm riding with Matt Stafford in this offense. I think they could put up some serious points in this game.
They've showcased that they can do that, right? Especially as Jamie said with Golladay and healthy weapons. Be warned though, don't buy into DeAndre Swift. I think until it happens, it's like one of those things. Like
don't play him necessarily. I'm just saying if Adrian Peterson's out though, if Adrian Peterson's rolled out, all of a sudden Swift is a low end RB2 for this week. Like I would play him in that case. You know, if Peterson misses this game, but I think. The Jaguars have been this weird team where I think people, because of the excitement with Minshew Mania, especially early in the season, that the evaluation of this team shifted so quickly and people haven't shifted all the way back yet. This went from they're picking number 1 overall coming into the season to, Minshew might be a thing. They might be not a thing, but good. And then they've been blah as a team. Minshew's been fine, but then remember, it's still a team that was one of the worst in football. So, I mean, let's be honest, like right now on a neutral field, are you taking Jacksonville or you're taking Cincinnati? And how long do you think about it?
I'm taking Cincinnati in about 2 seconds.
Okay, but I guarantee you people are going to go Jacksonville. So put it in that context and realize we're still talking about one of the probably 3 worst teams in football.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So,
they belong in that conversation. That's where they were at the beginning of the season. And there was a little slight, they beat the Colts in week 1. Could this be a thing? No, guys, they don't have the roster, right? Like Minshew's playing well, but he's playing well with, they need a lot of changes, and that's why they have a lot of draft capital. So we'll see this moving forward. All right, guys, couple minutes left here. Rams, Niners. Rams are a 3.5-point favorite. Jamie, this was one of your locks of the week that I had to represent, so I'm going to let you take it away. Why are you locking this team in?
The Rams have been absolutely phenomenal on the road this year. They put up a ton of points. They're just destroying teams. We saw that in Washington last week. They're going to still be up for this game because they have to compete with an undefeated Seattle Seahawks team. The Rams think they can win this division, and the Seahawks are still their biggest obstacle standing in their way. Jimmy Garoppolo is probably going to play, but he's hobbled. I know Mostert's going to play, but you still don't have Samuel still isn't 100% yet. This defense is just as decimated as it's been in the last few weeks. I just don't think they can keep up offensively. I think that's going to be the key here, where the Rams haven't been held under 30 points on the road this year. I can't see a possible way San Francisco can get above 28. I just can't see it. I don't care who's the quarterback this week. I don't care any of that stuff. I don't see how they can do it. They can keep up offensively, especially with the way their defense is playing right now. So to me, that's the lock of the week. That this is a huge game for the Rams. It's on prime time. They're not going to sleepwalk through this, and their offense is just not going to be able to be matched by San Francisco.
They've proven that they deserve the respect, right, guys? Like the Rams were one of the teams we called out at the beginning of the year. Sean McVay, show us something. They definitely deserve what they're getting. So that's one of Jamie's locks of the week. We'll finish up here, Falcons and Vikings, right? Lots of fantasy implications in this one. Obviously, the Falcons, their first game playing without Dan Quinn as the head coach. Vikings are a 4-point favorite here. Jake, I want you to describe how much of a lift you think this Atlanta Falcons team is going to get, if at all, with the Dan Quinn factor, because I do think this is one of those scenarios. almost mirroring, if you guys recall, when Ron Rivera was fired and the players were not very happy about it. The Falcons players rallied for Dan Quinn. This was not something that they wanted. They went to ownership and said, we want him to be our coach, and they moved on. So I don't think there's going to be a bump here. Do you disagree?
No, I agree wholeheartedly. I think it's the polar opposite of what we saw in Houston with Bill O'Brien, where they wanted him gone. The players were button heads. J.J. Watt button heads, Deshaun Watson, and they got a bump in 1 week. And now I think that bump is gone for them. But no, I think it could be the exact. It was a perfect scenario you just said. Ron Rivera, that team went.
Yep,
they
off
were
a
all
cliff.
broken hearted to the point where guys retired and didn't want to play for anybody else. Like Luke Kuechly was like, I'm out. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I think the Vikings are better. I think Madison has a monster game and fills in for Cook nicely. If this line's 4, I'm right on it. I got the Vikings 28-24. Tons of fantasy stuff I'll let Jamie run with in this game. Julio miraculously all of a sudden is healed in the hamstring.
Is ready to rock.
But no, I agree with you, Paige. I don't think they get a bump from this. I could see them actually going in the tank and then going the other way around.
Jamie, Dalvin Cook not playing in this one. That's a big, obviously, we knew about the injury, but official coming out that he is ruled out of this game. Julio playing. What are you looking at fantasy-wise going into this one? Because this team, both teams, tons of fantasy implications.
Yeah, look, if the Falcons are one of those teams that are almost like an auto start, of anybody that's going to get any sort of reps, you're going to play against that defense you want to play. I tried to sit here and think about all of the reasons why I wouldn't or couldn't rank Alexander Madison in the top 5, and I couldn't come with any. Yeah. He's not my RB4 this week. Like I don't see any reason why he's not going to get 20 carries, 100 plus yards, at least one score. Like I can't find a reason unless he leaves the game with an injury. He is going to be the guy there. He's going to get fed. He's looked pretty darn good dating back to last season when he's filled in for Dalvin Cook, and it's a great matchup for him. It's a great matchup for Adam Thielen. I think you get a bounce back week from Justin Jefferson. Put him right back in your lineups. Don't worry about last week. Trust what you see there. And Atlanta's side, you probably have to play Julio Jones. I ended up ranking him in, as a wide receiver 2 this week because I got a lot of questions about him. I am somebody that has him in one of the leagues that I'm in, and I'm in, and I think it's our league. And we're in a bad spot because he hasn't shown you much. He's played games recently and hasn't been involved, and now all of a sudden he's just miraculously just off the injury report completely. So you're probably playing him. I don't think you have a lot of better options this week, but I don't know what you get from him. You should still get a good game from Calvin Ridley. But I mean, at this point with Atlanta, you're really only must starting Ridley, and I think probably Julio for most people because he's still a top 20 ranked this week. Gurley's going to be in your lineup because nobody has any running backs, and you can run on Minnesota a little bit. That's really it. Like even Matt Ryan is like my QB 15 this week. Like I'm not ready to throw him out there. Like I'd much rather play a Tom Brady. I'd much rather play even a Ryan Fitzpatrick, an Andy Dalton. I mean, I would play all those guys over Matt Ryan right now, and I'm going to be playing against Andy Dalton, against the guy sitting to my right if you're watching me right now. So it's
I love that. Andy Dalton, the red rifle. That's who Jake's starting. I love it. Love it.
So Andy Dalton versus Big Ben, I believe is our TDN Fantasy Premium matchup, but. That's really it. Like you're not playing Russell Gage, you're not playing Zacchaeus. I don't think I mean, Hurst is in the rotation, but I don't know if he's not a must start by any means at this point. If you need a deep flyer this week at tight end, we saw a little bit of an emergence from Merv Smith Jr. last week, getting a little bit involved in that offense. Atlanta is so far this year has been the worst team in the NFL against tight ends for fantasy tight ends, allowing almost 2 points per game more than the second worst team. So if you want a flyer there, that might be it. But we've only really seen 1 week this year where Irv Smith's been heavily involved. So use that at your own risk. But there's going to be a lot of fantasy value in this game. But I agree with both of you in that the only lift the Falcons are getting out of this game is to fly to Minnesota. Like that's it. Like there's not. I think they were done anyway. They're cooked. Like if Minnesota was playing on all cylinders, this should be a touchdown spread.
100%.
Reason to be apprehensive about what we've seen from Minnesota so far. Enough to say it's let's keep it a more modest total. But right now, like I would be really surprised if Atlanta goes in there and wins this football game. Like I think they're absolutely done at this point.
Yeah, I think on top, whether it's the coaching stuff, obviously, where sometimes you get a lift in the Bill O'Brien scenario. This is not one of those where it mirrors to me the Ron Rivera situation where you've got a team that believed in their head coach, went to a Super Bowl, lost a Super Bowl, but believed in the guy, had the respect of the locker room. And this, I know that it was a move that had to be made, but the players in that locker room were loyal to their guy. And I don't think you're going to get an inspired version of the Atlanta Falcons. That all being said, they still have tons of fantasy value out there. You're not going to sit any of the superstar guys, but don't think you're going to get I don't think you're going to get a Matty Ice sighting in this one. I wouldn't be starting him if I was you guys. All right, guys, we're done. We have officially hit the end. I have safely taken care of this mighty swell, so it is now time for a new one since we started talking about the Bears and running back situations, and that was enough to drive me to drink. So, Jake, how can everybody follow you on social media and check out everything that you're doing?
Arians NFL on Instagram and Jake B. Arians on Twitter.
And Jamie, how can everybody follow you, Mr. Chicagoan?
Yes, you can follow me at Jamie Eisner on Twitter. And just a cheap plug here. If you've not become a TDN premium member yet, do so, because Paige and I answer all of your start-sit questions on Sunday morning, a half hour before kickoffs. Like those last second, we have all the information, all the injury reports. So that's really helpful for a lot of the guys and girls that are in that chat for us. So if you haven't done that yet, go to draftnetwork.com and do it, because it's a valuable resource, because this season, unlike any other, there's a lot of last minute changes and a lot of variables you're going to have to deal with, and maybe still have to deal with. Keep in mind, if you have any Broncos or Patriots players, you're going to have to be attentive all the way up into kickoff on Sunday.
Yeah, down to the wire, even more so than ever before. You guys can follow me at _sports page with an I on both Twitter and Instagram. Be sure to check out the show. Our podcast, search TDN Fantasy wherever you listen to podcasts. I assure you that it is there. And if it is not, feel free to hit me up on social media, and I will make sure that the podcast ends up wherever you are listening. Thanks so much, and enjoy week 6.